Hello everyone! I wanted to share this fun envelope that I made for a card that I made the other day. This is using perfect pearls on the Gelli Plate. I'm going to be using my large 8x10 Gelli Plate, and this envelope is what I'm going to be showing you how I made. And this is a pretty simple design. It just takes some patience with putting the perfect pearls on the Gelli Plate. I was trying to figure out the right portion of perfect pearls because the Gelli Plate kind of absorbs it, or it sticks to it really well. And then sometimes I felt like I had too much on there and I had to move it around, and other times I felt like it wasn't enough. So it was just playing with the right amount of perfect pearls to put on the Gelli Plate to get it to move and to get the look that I was going for. So I was doing kind of like my card that I had made that I wanted to make this envelope for was the tropical birds one. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it here. And it has kind of a purpley pink shimmery sky, so I wanted to kind of bring in the purpley pink colors here, but I also brought in as you could see, the yellow, oranges, even the white down there at the end. And I was just going for a nice gradient in these clouds with this little cloud stencil that I have. This idea to make an envelope using a gel print was actually my husband's idea. He thought it would be a neat thing to see how a gel press envelope would look, so that is why I am making this one in particular, because I wanted to see how this would look as an envelope. So it was a great idea. Thank you to my husband, and it was a lot of fun to make. If you are looking for something new and interesting to make on a Gelli Plate, this is really fun, just blending out these perfect pearls into the cloud shapes and just kind of seeing that sky kind of come together. It's really neat. I had another idea that I might try in the future, is to use, some people call them pan pastels. I don't have pan pastels, but I do have soft pastels. So I was thinking of maybe taking some soft pastels, just the powder from them, and kind of trying this same idea here. But we'll see if I try that. I think the pastels are harder to get off of the plate than the perfect pearls. I did find that the perfect pearls came off in about the first take of the paint over the top of it. It took off most of the perfect pearls, so it doesn't leave a lot of residue on the plate. So I really liked that, and I could always just add more if I wanted a little bit more for a next print. So in some of these areas, I was getting a lot of the perfect pearls. If I scooped it back onto the stencil, I was able to kind of move it around to a different area. And I also mixed some of the orange and yellow together to kind of get an in-between color. So it's just kind of spacing out the clouds and changing the color up each time that I go down until I end with this white at the bottom. You might see there's a little bit of extra powder left on the gel plate, so I do end up brushing all of that off at the end before I add my paint, so that the paint actually sticks to the top of this. Also, my little brush, it was losing a lot of its little hairs. A lot of the bristles were coming off on this. I don't know if it's because, again, the Gelli Plate is so sticky and it was kind of pulling them out, but I did have a lot of those little hairs falling off for this part. So I'm using a milky white, just a matte acrylic paint, a decent amount on here. On the last envelope that I had made, I did too little paint, so this time I did a pretty big blob, because it really needs to cover all of the perfect pearls and it needs to still be wet by the time you put the paper on it, in order to pull all of it off of the plate. So after I rubbed this in really well all around, I actually left it and I let it rest for about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I came back. Basically, the paint was dry to the paper now, and then I pulled it off, and all of the perfect pearls and the paint came off into this nice, clean print. There's just a tiny bit of residue on that darker orange color, but it's hardly noticeable. So this is what it looks like. It is so cool. In person, it is so impressive looking, because the pearls are all different kind of colors. The purple at the top is such a pretty purple, and then the pink, the orange is really bright, the yellow. So it's so fun to see those colors just pop off of there. And the cool thing that I found was that the paper actually felt really soft and the pearls didn't rub off. So that was a nice little bonus. So I'm making this into my envelope with my envelope punch board. This is We Are Memory Keepers. I actually have my own measurements at the bottom of the board. It's 8 1/8 by 8 1/8, and then I score at 3 5/8. So that's where my first line is that I punch from, and then you just follow the little score guide to spin it around until all 4 sides are punched and scored, like so. And then you flip it around, and then you can have the corner rounder for all of the edges, all of the corners. I do love this punch board. It makes the best envelopes, and I love that the envelopes all look the same when I use this. So this is one of my favorite little tools in my craft room for when I need to make an envelope. So this envelope needed a little label. I had this from, I think, a Tim Holtz set. It's just a die cut, and it has a little bit of embossing on it. So I just took some Distress Oxide ink, the Picked Raspberry, and I was just going to ink around the edges of this one, just so it'll pop out from the background and also match the background of the envelope. So here with the envelope, it's time to fold it now. I started with the 2 side flaps, but it really doesn't matter which you start with. At the end, you'll just see how I fold mine together. And I do use my score tool to make a nice crisp fold. You can see the little white area, and there's actually some remnants from my prior gel print on the edges. It kind of had like a dark border. So I guess if you're doing this and you don't want that dark border showing, something like that, I would just say clean your Gelli plate with if you clean it with the baby oil, would get all of that off. In fact, I'm probably going to do that if I do this again. Just clean it with a baby oil and get all of the dark spots off, so that it would just be a little bit of a white border instead of white with dark. So for my envelopes, I like to fold this part back right here, this little flap, and then I fold it forward and I glue that, and then I will close the envelope with some glue. I'm using tacky glue for this, but it does show the line of glue through this paper. This is copy paper, 28 pound copy paper, color lock, bright white, and this glue does show through. So if you wanted, you could use a tape, and maybe I would do that on my next one. Use a double-sided tape instead, and it would probably look less, you wouldn't see the bubbling from the glue that way. So this is the envelope all put together. The clouds, I did notice the clouds, they might seem like they're a little bit upside down, but I was okay with it because for me it was about the colors and the design of it. But I suppose if I were to do this again, I would actually flip it to the back, see how my clouds line up, and then decide which part goes up and which part goes down. So here I'm just attaching that label onto the front, and that finishes out this envelope, and I'll show you what it looks like with the card. So here's that card that I had made, and the colors aren't exact because on this one's perfect pearls, and on the card I used metallic paints, but they do look nice together, and I think that this would be a great little gift card, something to treat someone to, and I know I would love to receive something like this. So we'll see who's on my lucky list to receive this one. Hope you enjoyed watching, and if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next video. Happy crafting!